Gene editing, also beneficial and dangerous. This is the last day of the presidency of former U.S. President Barack Obama. At that time, gene editing techniques were recently discovered. Researchers these days were very optimistic about helping many hereditary diseases. The treatment of the deadly disease will be possible. Although experts are still experimenting with this technique, we have already been exposed by security experts on the same day. They say that if this technique is taken by terrorists, they will be able to create biological weapons and could pose serious threats to world peace. In this regard, Obama's scientific affairs advisor, Piers Millett, issued a warning to the Obama administration that there was a possibility of the technology being handcuffed by terrorists, and that President Donald Trump would be given a briefing in this regard. They should be aware of gene editing techniques, CRISPR, gene therapy and synthetic DNA preparations and their implications, and they should also be told what kind of damage is feared if this technology is taken by terrorists. Piers Millett, a member of the Presidential Advisory Council for Science and Technology, CAST, and a biotenure expert at the Wilson Center in Washington, also sent a message to President Obama at the time, stating that I will have to develop a new biodefense strategy in the next 6 months. The letter said that a strategy was formulated in 2009 in this regard, but due to the non-cooperation of the concerned departments, it could not be implemented. Other members of the council also called on Congress to raise a $2 billion fund for public health emergencies to effectively respond to new emerging biotechnologies. It should be noted that for 3 decades the U.S. government has been focusing on biodefense. In this regard, anthrax, Ebola and smallpox have been declared a threat to the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture. The U.S. government is providing researchers with access to pathogens, and experiments are being conducted in this regard. There were also reports that researchers in the United States were experimenting with this aspect of how the influenza virus could be made even more dangerous. However, CAST members at the time said that the rapid development in the field of biotechnologies has disabled the approach adopted in the past and new strategies need to be developed to address these risks. Council members said that the promotion of synthetic DNA, gene therapy and gene editing techniques has created opportunities that are misusing these techniques. For example, they can be used to alter the virulence of a virus or a bacterium, to increase its immune response, or to spread the disease. Similarly, synthetic DNA can be produced in the laboratory, and with the help of gene therapy, the DNA in living cells can be transformed. These are all ways in which terrorists can build and use weapons effectively. In this regard, Todd Kukin, a senior researcher at genetic engineering at North Carolina University, said that if you have access to sequence data, you can do whatever you want. He said that it was important to keep a close watch on the experiences in this regard. In its letter, council members also demanded a $250 million annual grant for the manufacture of new antibiotics and antiviral drugs. The purpose of this episode, described here as 11 years old, is to try to understand that humanity is playing a dangerous role in the race for scientific development in the context of a virus causing worldwide crisis. Now 5 years go by. A statement was issued following the first international meeting of human gene editing, held in December 2015, in which organizers of the meeting unanimously said that the birth of genetically modified children, this announcement would be considered as unhealthy unless it was assured that the Sophie's preservation was safe. However, this announcement did not yield any significant benefit. The Chinese scientist Jian, a year ago, made 2 genetically modified ones. Were able to produce children. In addition, many groups are trying to improve humans using this technology. Following this progress, some experts specializing in gene modification, some of which made the 2015 statement letter, banned all human crime line modification, namely the inheritance modification of sperm or egg cells. In a letter published in the journal Nature Science, experts from 7 different countries and contributing experts in the development of CRISPR technology, including Emmanuel Charpentier, Eric Lander and Feng Zhang and colleagues, were demanded. Calls for an amendment to the human crime line until an international agreement is reached. What was, according to him, a 5-year term is appropriate, and the U.S. National Institutes of Health also upheld the demand. These scientists at the time expressed the hope that a voluntary global restriction would prevent any unexpected action of a scientist such as Jian. They will find time to consider scientific, medical, social and ethical issues. He said that the countries that have decided to allow the editing of the crime line must first inform the public, international consultation, and gain widespread consensus in their own country. That the whole world has come to the conclusion that the line of crime should be avoided. According to the signatories of this letter, research on the crime line should be allowed only if the fetus does not intend to produce children and live children. Also, those who do not contribute to the breeding season with the help of CRISPR's somatic cells, in which changes will not be inherited, should not be objectionable, provided that participating adults have consented. At this time, genetic superiority should not be allowed in any case, and no clinical application should be undertaken unless the individual and overall long-term results are clear. Now we come back to the case of the coronavirus. According to experts, at this time we do not know what most of our genes do, so the probability of unintended consequences is very high. Dan, who is trying to work on CCR5 gene damage to protect children, has become more prone to cataracts in a few viral infections. Incoming species can also be affected in unexpected ways. Experts say that trying to change all humanity based on our current information would be very foolish. It was said at the time that the proposed temporary restriction and global framework would only be voluntarily implemented. This meant that this ban would not be possible to prevent misguided scientists. Experts at the time said that imposing a complete ban would be a very difficult decision, and they hope their proposal will at least hinder the intentions of completely changing the human race. According to reports 5 years ago, the Chinese Ministry of Health was also trying to disrupt genetic modification following the experiments of the Chinese scientist. There were also reports that under the new rules in China, Chinese scientists must obtain permission from the authorities before attempting to take dangerous action, such as amending the crime line. It's December 30, 2019. A Chinese scientist who has been harassed by gene editing has been sentenced by the court to 3 years in prison and banned from working all his life. Jian Kaiyu, an assistant professor at China's Southern University of Science and Technology, claimed in November 2018 that he did genetic editing before the birth of the twins and made them safe from HIV disease. Experts around the world were terribly fearful and expressed their deep concern about the research. Professor Jian said that during the experiment the super technique used for the editing of human genes was used and scientists expected that it would be possible to improve human life in the future and prevent hereditary diseases. Jian's own university rejected his research and demanded the government to punish the investigating experts severely. Earlier, Jian Kaiyu was fined 3 million yuan, $430,000. They were paid. 2 of the experts involved were also sentenced to prison. He said that after the experience of Jian and his team, there was an intense reaction from all over the world, after which all the people were hiding. Genetic editing can quickly spread the disease, such as AIDS. Good side. In many countries, including the United States, an entirely new gene editing technique is being used, which will save lives. In 2015, a girl named Layla went through the gene editing technique of the secretory cells. The baby is recovering from leukemia who could have died. After this work, gene editing is being done in many countries of the world. This method of treatment is very patient and demanding. Among them, the CRISPR, clustered regularly interspaced shorter palindromic repeats, is the most reliable. Through this process, a gene that causes a disease is altered and transformed. DNA edit in China, scientists are busy treating cancer by silencing the PD-1 gene. In the first stage, the cells are taken off the respective gene and the transformed cells are re-injected into the body. In this way, the cancer cells do not get the chance to grow. One such treatment is in the trial phase in the United States. It will also deactivate PD-1 and 2 other genes. In addition, some types of leukemia, such as leukemia, have also been helpful in the treatment of cardiac arteries. But for the apostles, this process